There's a reason a good laugh feels like it reaches all the way down to your bones. It's one of the quickest ways the body remembers joy. And that's why even a moment of lightness can shift so much more than simply our mood. We experience 1,000 waking minutes on average every day. How are you spending yours? I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, and you're listening to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I can't wait to connect with you here with practical ways to eat well, move daily, and be healthy, to optimize every waking minute you live for a happier, healthier life. Thank you for sharing some of your waking minutes with me today. Let's get started.
I'm saying yes to better days, yes. I'm on my way, yes. It's gonna be okay, yeah.
Hello and welcome to 1,000 Waking Minutes. I'm Dr. Wendy Bazilian, and I'm really glad you're here. As we enter into a season that can hold a bit of everything, full hearts, full calendars, sometimes full plates, I wanted to spend our time today on something that lifts us easily and effortlessly. Something joyful, something spontaneous, and surprisingly scientific. And that's laughter. Real laughter. It's the kind that bubbles up without warning. It softens our shoulders. It softens the edges of a long day. And it reminds you instantly that you're human and that you're not alone. In fact, my daughter said before I started recording this episode today, she said, not even knowing what the topic was, she said, "Mom, let me tell you a joke to get you warmed up." And then she proceeded to tell me some riddles and jokes. Among them, why did the cookie go to the doctor? Because it felt crummy. And a whole slew more. She always has them on the top of her head, off the top of her head, on the tip of her tongue. And it always makes me giggle. But if you know my work, you know I love science. And this topic, laughter, it touches something a little bit different. It's part psychology, part magic, I would say. And laughter really does touch all three pillars: eat well, move daily, be healthy, that you know I love to talk about. And it's sort of my personal and professional mantra. It moves the body, it nourishes the spirit, and sometimes it even helps us heal what we didn't know needed healing at times. And as much as humor can be just pure fun, and it should be, it can also show up in some of the most unexpected places. One of the most powerful examples, and I say this with deep respect, but it came to mind as I was preparing today's episode, is how comedy has over time historically, but in particular how it found its way back into the world after 9/11. What I specifically recall, and I had to look up the dates around it, I didn't remember that part, but I remember Saturday Night Live and the question about, is it okay to laugh again? There were articles written, how was it going to be handled? In such a dark time, is there room for laughter? And gently and bravely, as the days progressed, the answer became yes. And there was a famous opening scene, you could search it online, just 18 days after the tragic events of 9/11. And they said yes to laughter. It wasn't because there were rules of when or how or if, but sort of because laughter helps us breathe where life presses too hard at times, where it presses on our chest and it presses on humanity. And the thing about laughter is that it threads relief of ways, relief of a day. It just brings out emotion. And sometimes it threads into places where we need it most. We see this in everyday life as well. And recently, like many of you perhaps, comedians like Nate Bargatze have really gotten my funny bone. With his clean and wry, his everyday humor, it feels like a friend who's telling a story to me. And it reminds us how relatable humor can be. Basically, he shows us that everyday everyday life is hilarious if you look at it in a certain way. And it connects to so many of our probably own personal moments or just sort of peering in onto the life of others. He reminds us how funny small moments, seemingly such small moments in life can be. As he notices sort of the tiny details that we all live in, it somehow gets under your funny bone in the very best ways. It's his timing, of course, his tone, the way he notices those like tiny human details that we all live in. It even makes me chuckle just thinking about scenarios and scenes because it's part of our chemistry and it gets under our funny bone in the very best way. So a friend of mine who happens to be a Tony Award-winning actress, Andrea Martin, and she's a comedian and television, theater, movie actress, known for her famed early years in Godspell with Martin Short and Eugene Levy, later in the 70s and 80s with SCTV in Canada, in her hilarious roles. She more recently probably know of her as the hilarious aunt in My Big Fat Greek Wedding movies. Anyway, she has always had an incredible blend of humor and heart, like a real connection. And one of her standout characters was Edith Prickley. And some of you may remember this character. She was a leopard print wearing, big, bold glass character, sort of a positive force to reckon with, and a character who's been loved by many people for more than 4 decades, I guess. Well, she came to mind, this character, again, not too long ago when I was reading Andrea's memoir called Lady Parts. And she brought her alter ego, Edith, as Lil Edith P. at the end in a playful nod to her character at the very end of her book. And she sort of wrapped up the whole book by bringing her to the mic for a rap. So she wrapped it up with a rap song. And one of the lines in this sort of poetry slam style rap was, "Give me the love, give me the stage, give me the laughter, give me the 32-ounce margarita after." It's silly and smart, but it's perfectly human. And it's exactly what we're talking about here today. I love, give me the love, give me the stage, give me the laughter in particular. So today we're going to get a little serious about being silly. We're going to explore why laughter matters, what some science shows, I'll give you an ROI on laughing, and how to bring more of it into our 1,000 waking minutes every day. Before we get into the science of it too, I want to start with something simple, a little story, a historical story really, about why laughter shows up when we need it most. I shared this story before, but other examples, even when we're not looking for it, because sometimes humor sneaks in through the side door, so to speak, at a hard moment and says, hey, just breathe for a moment. Hey, we just need a little respite in how we're handling today. Other times it's like human humor, it's laugh out loud, it's little things, life just trying to be funny. But the humor that finds us is important. So let's start with something simple here. Joy and optimism and lightheartedness, whatever word you choose, we certainly all need more of it in our life. And the funny thing, unintended there, is that humor has been a part of how humanity heals. I found this interesting when I was doing some research on the impact and effects and manifestations of humor and laughter, because I always like to have context. But during World War II, when anxiety and loss were hanging over everyday lives of so many people, Hollywood flooded theaters with screwball comedies, sort of like a disconnect that became connected. Audiences didn't just want an escape, they needed it and they craved it. And so the theaters for these comedies became full. 2 decades later, at the height of the Cold War, a parody record remember records, album, called The First Family, was poking gently and poking fun at the Kennedy family. And it became the fastest selling album in America at the time. It sort of gave people permission to laugh when the world felt very tense. And we can remember the first weeks of the pandemic, something very real and recent in our immediate past, when our sort of social media feeds filled with homemade memes about toilet paper, all the Zoom mishaps that people were experiencing with their day-to-day lives being online and on camera, about banana bread and our starters for our sourdough. None of these funnies solved the crisis, certainly, but it did give us micro moments of relief, a little exhale of sort, a type of connection, a type of shared humanity. So humor doesn't erase the hardships that we face, but it does do something pretty remarkable. It gives us momentary freedom from it. Psychologists actually have a name for this. They call it reappraisal. It's the ability to see circumstances differently, even briefly. And this shift can help release tension. It can improve coping, and it can literally change the body's chemistry. So if you've ever laughed through tears or laughed at an awkward moment that feels like it's a mismatch, you already know that humor can be such a pressure valve for our soul and our spirit. And it's one of the ways we turn our surviving into living again, and one of the ways we can find our way back to ourselves. So we see how humor shows up in our real life. Let's take a little look at how and what the scientific evidence suggests, because the science of laughter is no joke, intended there as well, quite literally. So the returns on investments, the ROI, or benefits to your health from laughter. I'm going to give you a few reasons and some science to back it. Number one, laughter rewires the brain. So at Loma University, my alma mater for my doctoral degree, Dr. Ronald Burke asked older adults to watch 20 minutes of funny videos while a control group sat quietly instead. I'd like to be in that funny video group if I was to choose, but this was a controlled trial. Anyway, those who laughed, those who were viewing the 20 minutes of funny videos, showed a 43% improvement in memory recall and much lower cortisol levels, that stress hormone. In short, their brains relaxed, their memory centers lit up, and their learning improved. How fun is that? And there's a line that's been widely credited to Stephen Colbert. I've not found the original source or seen this, but I've seen it credited to him many times. But I think that really does ring true here. He said something to the effect of, you can't laugh and be afraid at the same time. And so I think of that in this context, whether or not he said it, but that idea matches what we see in science. The brain can't hold both states at the same time. So when laughter can quiet the stress response, even for a moment, it gives our learning centers room to wake back up. Isn't that cool? So the second ROI is about laughter in the heart. Researchers at the University of Madrid found that laughter dilates blood vessels, which improves circulation and helps ease tension. So it's sort of like cardio exercise that you don't have to schedule and get on the treadmill for, so to speak. And in traditional Chinese medicine, which I've learned a bit about over the years through my spouse, Jason, who practices in the field, as many of you know, the heart is also linked to the emotion of joy. That's a linkage in traditional Chinese medicine. And when the emotion flows, vitality follows. So Norman Cousins, who famously used laughter as therapy and has written some really interesting books about this, it called this a way to jog internally without going outdoors. And I mean, I just love that image, a way to jog internally without going outdoors. Going outdoors is great for a multitude of other reasons, but it's sort of like your body getting a little workout while you're just laughing. So lace up those belly laughing jogging shoes, I suppose. It's healthy and it's such an efficient way to help your circulation. Number 3, ROI or benefit, is that laughter can support our immunity, our immune system function. And I've used this and referenced this study a number of times over the years, especially at the time when our immune systems become compromised or it's cold and flu season. Well, Carnegie Mellon University had research published that showed that people with more positive emotional styles catch fewer colds, an association. And when they do, their symptoms tend to be milder. So, in effect, it's sort of like a good laugh maybe won't replace your vitamin C and all your other great behaviors towards supporting immunity, like sleep and fluids and washing your hands, but it might help you catch fewer colds. And why not? It's free and it's joyful. Number 4, laughter and weight. I don't want to oversell this, but maybe a bonus perk. A Vanderbilt study out of Vanderbilt University found that 10 to 15 minutes of laughter can burn up to 40 calories. Now, I don't, hang my hat on how many calories burned for anything as far as let's just think about calorie burning when we're trying to lose weight. There's lots of strategies we need to engage. And no one is saying, especially me, skip the gym or skip your move daily routine. But 40 calories for 10 to 15 minutes of laughter a day does add up to about 4 pounds of metabolism burning credit each year from joy. That's an easy prescription to take on. It's like RX, have a laugh daily, something like that. And call me in the morning and laugh with me maybe, and we can help each other out. And the final benefit is that smiling changes our chemistry. Even a forced smile, an intentional smile, even if you're not feeling it, can send feedback to the brain. Studies on facial feedback have found that people whose frown has been sort of held back with Botox so that they can't frown down, they reported improved mood. Not interesting? The message is like the face talks to the brain and the brain listens to it. So people who couldn't frown had improved mood. And also other has shown that there's sort of endorphins released when you smile, when you actually have that forced smile. So this is a piece that I think is really important to sort of look at this a little further. When we look closely at the research, what we see pretty consistently is that laughter can create some real and measurable benefits, especially in the short term. In a well-designed study in the journal Heart, the researchers found improved blood flow and dilation for about 24 to 45 minutes after a single bout of laughter. So improved blood flow and vessel dilation for approaching an hour, up to an hour. So while we can't say that it lasts all day, the effects, we can say that even just a few moments of genuine joy can sort of shift your body's physiology in a meaningful way. And if we sprinkle those moments throughout our 1,000 waking minutes, laughing here and there as life offers it, where we can find it for the everyday humor that is life, or moments to be that release valve, these short bursts can build on each other and really add up. So we've just spent some time with the science, all the ways lightness and laughter and even a simple smile, even if it's forced, can shift what's happening inside us. So let's give ourselves a moment to actually feel that. And this will be our quiet pause, our mindful minute together that we'll take. An opportunity in your busy day to reset. So find a comfortable seat if you're not already in one. Let's unclench our jaws, open them up, let our shoulders drop, feet square on the floor, relax. Let's take a preparatory breath in through the nose, exhale through the mouth, and I'll talk you through our mindful minute starting now. So I want you to soften the muscles around your eyes. Let the corners of your mouth lift just a hint into a smile. Notice how even that small change can soften your whole body as you continue to breathe. Imagine that a light laugh sort of sneaks up on you when something unexpected delights you. And let it roll through you gently, sort of like a ripple that you see across a still water or that's moving through you. Feel your chest open up, your breath lengthen, and your body ease. Take one last slow inhale. Exhale with a small smile. And that's it. That's one mindful minute, and I hope you're smiling. As Thich Nhat Hanh reminds us, sometimes your joy is a source of your smile, and sometimes your smile can be the source of your joy. I just love that. Thank you for sharing a mindful minute with me today. Okay, so we're going to turn this all into something you can use now. We've talked about how lightness can shift our chemistry, and now we're going to see how we can invite more of it into our day. Not by trying to be funny, unless you're naturally so, but making moments and room for those moments that can lift you. Joy rarely waits for a perfect setup or the perfect opportunity for a punchline or a pun, as I like to insert when it's appropriate or when I think of it. But it usually actually starts with something small. It's a pause or a breath, a tiny spark of noticing something that gives you a tickle. You know, people say tickled pink is sort of that association on that rush when you get sort of a hit of something that makes you tickled. Fun, your tickle bone. So when we build from that place, not pushing, but inviting in and opening a door, laughter always has a funny way of finding us. So here are a few simple ways to welcome more lightness into your 1000 waking minutes. Number one, I call it find your funny. Think about the kind of humor that gets you. It's not all the same for all of us. Is it dry wit? Is it gentle absurdity? Is it clever wordplay? Or is it just full-on silliness? Make a kind of laughter playlist of sorts. The comedians you like, the shows that never fail you. I've been enjoying Abbott Elementary lately. For some reason, it just really gets me chuckling. I find such humor in the beautifully delivered moments. Maybe it's sort of that humanness and that reality of moments sort of extended a little bit to the absurd at times. Sometimes it might even be like a 10-second Nate Bargatze clip while you're scrolling through Instagram. It can reset the whole mood. His everydayness is just such a good reminder that humor doesn't have to be loud or dirty language to be effective, that's for sure. A second tip is watch something that cracks you up. So this sort of ties into find your funny. But Norman Cousins, that I mentioned earlier, famously found that 10 minutes of deep laughter gave him 2 hours of pain-free sleep. He's made associations through a very famous book of his called Anatomy of an Illness, of the power of laughter to help mediate pain. He would watch Candid Camera and the Marx Brothers until his sides hurt and his pain softened. You can do the same. Is it the movie Elf, Bridesmaids, Some Like It Hot, an SNL clip? You name it. It's sort of like your joy on demand in watching something that cracks you up. Third, collect the small stuff. You know, print cartoons. We actually get an envelope from my in-laws every week for my daughter with the funny pages. We always used to call them the funnies on the weekend. The color comics. We get them. Print cartoons are like tiny masterpieces of perspective on the world, but can often be very, very funny. And one of my favorite is, the peanut on, there's a New Yorker cartoon. I remember it wasn't a color one, but it was a New Yorker cartoon that was a peanut on a psychiatrist's couch. And the therapist says, first off, you're not a nut, you're a legume. And every time I see it, I smile because, of course, it relates to my field when we're talking about tree nuts and are peanuts really a nut, but we call them partly a nut and they act like a nut. Every time I see that, I smile. Sometimes that's all we need is our own connection in like a small comic or a small something that gets us that we have that we can look at, whether it's on our phone or preferably something you can cut out simply and post or relate to yourself. The next tip is playing something silly. Adults sometimes forget that play is actually a health tool. So things like charades. Anyone ever laughed at charades and the funny effort, some of us, at trying to get people to guess what we're trying to act? Or Pictionary, our drawings. All of them are sort of lower stakes games, and they definitely raise the laughter. Sure, things like Monopoly can end up being funny, but it's usually where the laughter starts in the games and the way we connect with each other. And connection really is the real win here anyway, and the smiles we get from play. Another practice that you can do is sharing jokes. Even a terrible one, even a terribly good one. A 7-year-old once asked me, and this was, not my own, but how do you make a Kleenex dance? You put a little boogie in it. Now, I am in a household that is dealing in jokes on the regular right now, but these sort of silly jokes, if you tell one and you tell a second, you tell a third, you're sure to laugh and crack up over time. It multiplies the moment when it's shared with others. Another tip is saying yes to the goofy. And what I mean is that a friend that I know painted her face like a cat to go see Cats, an adult. And by the end of the night, everyone around her couldn't stop laughing about it, including herself, because she was doing it to be silly. It was just outside her comfort zone. She didn't know whether to do it or not, but she loved it, and she had the paint, and she thought it would be fun and funny, so she did it. Another thing outside of the comfort zone is singing. If you think you sing badly or you don't know the words, just sing out loud. Or dance with your pet. Or say yes to something that you just really feel like would make you laugh, but it may not be your forte. Your body knows what to do with the joy eventually, and it usually turns into laughter. Another I'd like to share is what I call smile loudly. Of course, smiling loudly turns to laughter, but it's one of my go-to strategies for clients, and it's something I shared before. Especially when you're dealing with yourself, you're observing yourself, and you may not be happy in the moment, but it's sort of taking a pause on some of the activities and observing your behavior. When someone is a late night snacker and trying to break that habit or dealing with cravings, sometimes I say, take a pause. Well, I always say, take a pause. But what we do next can be a list of a number of things. Sometimes what we say is, take a pause and make yourself smile and look at what you're doing and evaluate it. Not judge it, look at it with a smile. That smile can send a tiny message upward, as I mentioned in the science, that something could be funny, that something good could happen. Sometimes a 1-second shift into that is enough to help you with the whole choice you're about to make. So here's your gentle challenge for this week. I'd like you to find your funny. Notice where it lives. Notice what makes you crack up, and maybe even write it down, because joy doesn't erase the hard in our life, and we all know that there's a lot of that, especially at times it can seem to pile up. But it does remind us that we're more than those hard parts or those challenges. And when life can feel like a lot or really heavy, you can reach for something that lifts you. It can be almost like medicine that you actually want to take, and without side effects except the positive ones. So maybe it means reaching for a favorite comedy before bed instead of doom scrolling, if you know what I mean. Maybe it's calling a friend who always makes you laugh in the first 30 seconds that you talk to them. Maybe it's trying laughter yoga. That's something that's very real, where you sort of fake laughter and somehow it becomes real. There used to be a game we'd play as kids where we'd all lay down sort of in a circle, one head on each other's stomach, and start this ha-ha game. And I remember we'd end up just roaring with laughter. And simply smiling at yourself in the mirror for no reason at all can help make the moment soften and make your body feel the chemical release that I shared earlier. So joy isn't just luck. It is actually a practice that can be for your health. It can help strengthen you, and you can strengthen this with a little practice. It's a way of choosing to meet the world a little lighter. So let yourself be a little silly. That's what I encourage you to do. Not to avoid life ever, but to move through with a lighter heart. As Confucius wrote, and I had this on a bookmark that we used to hand out in a week-long retreat with guests. Confucius wrote, "One joy dispels 100 cares." Isn't that true? You know, like something that really brings joy can sort of push away or let float away 100 cares, 100 things that might be bugging you or getting you down. Joy doesn't deny the cares, but it refuses to let them have the final say. And I think that's important. And I keep thinking about Andrea Martin's closing in Lady Parts. That's why I wanted to bring it to you, and her alter ego rapping, which in and of itself was really funny, but saying, "Give me the love, give me the stage, give me the laughter." That's funny, but it's also beautifully true. Love, laughter, and courage allows you to step into whatever stage you're on, big or small, and that's the stuff that makes life feel full. So wherever you find yourself this week, your kitchen, your desk, your car, in between the places of your day, I wish you and may you catch a moment of lightness. Have some laughs, some softer breaths, and allow that feeling move through you and your 1,000 waking minutes. So thank you for sharing some of your minutes with me today. And if you'd like to connect more, and I hope you do, you can find me at wendybazilian.com. You can come on Instagram at 1,000 Waking Minutes, and I'd be so pleased to interact further, and I'm so grateful for you being part of this community. So I'm Wendy Bazilian, your host and partner in 1,000 Waking Minutes, and until next time, be joyful and be well. Thank you for tuning in to 1,000 Waking Minutes. A huge thank you to our amazing collaborators, including our production and marketing teams, and Gabriela Escalante in particular. To the ultra-talented Beza for my theme music, my lifelong friend and artist, Pearl Price Photography and Design, to Daniel Ballantyne, Jen Nguyen, Joanna Powell, and of course my family, and everyone working tirelessly behind the scenes. And to you, our valued listeners, I so appreciate your support. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider leaving a comment, writing a review, and giving 1,000 Waking Minutes, that's us, a 5-star rating. And please hit subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you enjoy your podcasts. Please follow and stay connected at wendybazilian.com. And don't forget to share with your friends. Your support helps us grow and bring you more great content. Until next time, find some simple opportunities to optimize those 1,000 waking minutes each day.
I'm saying yes